Well, if you've stuck around this long, I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you've been enjoying parts 1 and part 2, because as you know, this is part 3 of our Camino series, where we finally make it to Zafra, and we're going to wrap things up with a good conclusion. Let's get into it. As promised, we're now on the road from Fuente to Zafra, and there'll be no stops until Calzaldea. Nicely enough, the trail runs directly through the center of town, where we should be able to find breakfast. Let's keep going. Alright, so as you can see behind me, I'm exiting Calzaldea de los Barrios. Now, I was led to believe that there was a restaurant functioning on the interior of the town, but it looked like it was closed. Maybe during the height of hiking season there'll be more people here, but right now, nothing. Luckily for us though, a little bit further out of town, hence why I've left it, there's actually a main road with a restaurant that I know is going to be working because I've seen trucks stopping at it. Now after this pit stop though, it's going to be a solid 14 kilometers until Pueblo, one of the border towns of Zafra. So to make sure that I make good time, I'm really sorry. I know you really want to watch me walk through even more fields. I'm going to pop the camera down for the next 14K and just get moving. So I'll see you guys once we get there and we're about to check out Zafra. Gotta make good time. So it has been a little while and many kilometers since I last spoke to you, but notice my spirits are still high. And that got me thinking, since it's been so long and we've been making such great time having to not talk to you guys, we're going to go over our next logistical topic, pilgrims. First off, the accommodation that you're most likely to come across are going to be municipal hostels, which will have the standard many bunk beds in a room kind of arrangement for about 10 euros a night. The other type of accommodation that you'll come across are essentially normal hotels. Those will set you back about 40 a night. Next, let's talk about food. So obviously I've been picking up lots of snacks and wine and stuff like that at the grocery store, and that's never totaled more than $7 per 2 people. When it comes to a hot meal and dinner though, a lot of the hostels and hotels, or at least one of the associated bars in the area, will often have a pilgrim menu for you. For a flat rate of around $8 or something like that, you'll be able to get an appetizer, entree, and dessert. Talking about booking and food and all that stuff, I kind of want to reiterate what I said on day 1 or 2, I can't really remember, whenever I was telling you about the importance of knowing some Spanish, because that has only been more and more true. In fact, every single interaction I've had has been 100% Spanish. Broken Spanish, but Spanish nonetheless. If you've ever been interested in learning the basics of a language and trialing it out, here's the place to do it. With all those bases covered, I think it's time to get back on the road again. We're only 3 kilometers away now from Zafra. Honestly, kind of the sad end of the journey. I would love to keep going, but this is all the time I have. Zafra is going to be really cool though, so I can't wait to check it out. And as a sneaky surprise for Camille, I've booked a really nice hotel. I'll show you that when we get there. Let's go. Let's get to know Zafra a little bit. It's an ancient town in the Extremadura region of Spain, most likely having coalesced together from smaller settlements in the region during the Roman era. Not always just a pilgrim route, the Via de la Plata was once a mighty Roman road used for trade and projecting their military influence throughout the region. It's pretty cool that this route to Zafra that we just hiked has been walked for thousands of years. In this way, one can see the heavy influence Seville has had on this town. So obvious are those influences that Zafra is known as little Seville, and I totally see it. As is common, the 15th century fortress dominates this town with a strange sort of split personality. From the outside, the fortress conveys a plain, militaristic, no-fuss kind of style. However, upon entry, the fortress reveals a palace with a large open courtyard flanked with high arches and billowing fabrics, now functioning as an opulent hotel lounge. Walking from the grand entranceway into the surrounding medieval quarter with its patchwork of narrow streets, you come to the Plaza Grande and Plaza Chica, which are excellent places to just chill, have some delicious food, and bask in the warm evening air under the preserved architecture. Come and explore it with us, and then I'll meet you back at the hotel to wrap things up. Alright, so there you have it, guys. After 5 days of hiking through the wilderness and the meadows, we've finally made it to our final stop, Zafra. Other than that though, all we have left is to get a couple drinks at the hotel and then an early morning train back to Seville. And there, going back home to Munich. So not a whole lot left to do, except we have one more layover in Lisbon, and this time we're going to be going a little further afield to Sintra to do a layover video there. So like and subscribe and check those videos out if you haven't, because it should be a lot of fun. So even though this video might be over, there's still a bit more trip to be had. As for us though, I'll see you at home after I've mulled it all over in the conclusion like always. Hey everybody, welcome back to Munich, like always, where we're ready to kind of sit back and reflect on our longest video yet, the 3-part series on hiking the Via de la Plata Camino. Now there are definitely a few things that we haven't finished covering, even though we've had 3 videos at this point, and those 2 big ones that people keep coming back to us with are food and accommodation. So let's jump right into that now. You've got all the food opinions, what are they?
Yeah, so a lot of people were asking, what does the food look like on the Via de la Plata? And in the 5 days that we were hiking, I kind of noticed that we could categorize them into 2 different segments. The food situation in the villages and the food situations in the town. So in the villages, there weren't any restaurants that I could tell per se. It was more a combination restaurant, bodega, pub, meeting place where the maybe 2 or 3 employees were wearing many hats of working the cash register, cooking, taking orders, and hanging out with all the locals. So it wasn't as culinary as you would expect. It was a lot of sort of cheese board selection type things where you could order like loaves and slices of bread, cheese and meat, and it was all local and really, really tasty, but a lot less culinary than you would expect from an actual restaurant.
Along with plenty of fried food offerings
as
well, don't forget that.
Yeah, we ate so many French fries.
Oh, so much. But after walking all day, you can get away with it.
I don't care. But then in the towns, it was more what you would expect from, a city or a small town like where we were, where there was sort of a proper restaurant scene with a lot of diversity. So there was Spanish tapas restaurants and a lot of foreign-owned restaurants too. And because it was sort of a more traditional restaurant setup, you would have a chef and a manager and a waitstaff, and they all sort of stuck to their roles so that they were able to provide sort of this, I keep going back to this idea of more like a traditional restaurant. And then as far as the hotel situation goes, both towns and villages had hostels and hotels. Now, we couldn't stay in any of the hostels, unfortunately, because we were hiking in February during the off season, so none of the hostels were open, so we opted for hotels. They were actually really cheap, about only 40 euros each, and we just did it through booking.com. So we had a really good experience. So even in the one hotel that we mentioned in the video where there was no hot water, I didn't get the impression it was because it was like a shoddy hotel or poorly run. I think it was just sort of an unfortunate circumstance of what was going on at the time. Yeah, I think a lot of people also have some anxiety around staying in hostels, but we've stayed in plenty of hostels before, like before this trip, and I've never experienced that either. So I would encourage you to look into that, especially as they're very cheap, like 5 or 10 euros a night. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with that being said, you were a little bit unsure about this trip. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Camille's been talking about wanting to go on one of these long-distance hiking-y holidays for years? Yeah. Longer than we've had the channel, just forever, really. And one of the things with that is I was never really that interested in it for a variety of reasons, and I think it's all down to visualization, and that's why I'm really glad we made these videos. Because before, I could only ever visualize kind of vagabonds along the Appalachian Trail, or people who could take a full month and a half off to walk an entire Camino. I can't do that, my career doesn't allow that, probably doesn't allow that for you either. And so this idea of like small section hiking, stopping in the villages, it I just couldn't even think of it, couldn't imagine what that would look like. And a lot of people are kind of in that boat, able to imagine going to Rome, Barcelona, London, those big manufactured kind of tourist experiences. There's nothing wrong with that if you want to go see that, but I really would push people, now having seen it for myself, that this is a fantastic trip that you can do on your holidays in Europe. And there's no reason why you can't mix and match it in as well. Maybe just hiking through the national park after a couple days in Seville. Like, this is something that people need to really be thinking about doing. And I can say that from my heart because I didn't think about doing it, and now all I can think about is planning other ones. We've already planned like 3 or 4 different walks that we could do. We're really into it now. So expect more of this content. And if you do want to see more of this kind of content, hit us up in the comments. And if we've missed something, because obviously there are a lot of questions. This is kind of very new to a lot of people. It's very new to me, is why I keep saying it. Hit us up with that, because we plan on doing a gear video in the future, talking about what was helpful, what wasn't helpful, and we can totally address those comments down in the comments or in that video as well.
Yeah, so with that being said, please like and subscribe, follow us on Instagram. We've got one more video coming out in the Iberian Peninsula. We're doing our layover back to Munich, back in Lisbon, did a day trip out to Sintra, so I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, that one was pretty fun. It was a little weird because I was incredibly tired at that point, having filmed, what, 5 videos? It was crazy. But yeah, like and subscribe, and we'll see you then.
Bye.